Welcome to the deep dive. Well, we're diving into a really interesting idea today. Um, it's about the Amazon rainforest and you know how we always think of it as this untouched wilderness. Well, what if I told you it might have been at least partially shaped by humans? Ancient civilizations, in fact.
Yeah, it's a pretty mind-blowing concept when you first hear it. For centuries, we've pictured the Amazon as this pristine, untouched paradise. But more and more recent discoveries by archaeologists and scientists, they're showing us a very different picture.
So it's more than just indigenous people living there, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about something bigger.
Right, yeah, of course, people have lived in the Amazon for thousands and thousands of years. We know that. But we're finding evidence now that suggests something much, much bigger was going on there. I mean, think complex societies, organized agriculture, even hints of urban centers.
Whoa, okay, so not just surviving, but actually managing and changing the rainforest itself. What kind of evidence is there for that?
Well, one thing is archaeologists are finding all these remnants of old roads, like huge agricultural systems and even earthworks. And these things, they suggest that these people weren't just adapting to the environment, they were actually changing it to fit what they needed.
Wow, that's incredible. I always thought it was small settlements scattered around. Are we talking about ancient Maya civilization level stuff?
Well, that's what researchers are trying to figure out now. We need more evidence, but some people think, yeah, these Amazonian societies might have been far more advanced than we ever thought, and their impact on the rainforest, could have been huge.
This changes everything I thought I knew about the Amazon. But how did they manage such a massive, dense rainforest? What did they actually do?
Well, they had a few techniques. One big one was this thing called selective logging. So they would be super picky about which trees they cut down, and that would encourage certain types of trees to grow. They also did controlled burning.
Controlled burning, you mean setting fires on purpose?
In the Amazon? Exactly. They would use fire to, clear land for farming, make space for animals to graze, and even to help certain useful plants grow.
I've heard of controlled burning being used today, but I never thought ancient people would do that, especially in the Amazon. That sounds kind of risky. How'd they keep those fires from, going crazy?
Yeah, you'd have to know the ecosystem really, really well to do that. And these indigenous communities, they had generations and generations of knowledge about fire, how it behaves, the weather patterns, the whole rainforest ecology. So they knew how to use fire to their advantage, but without letting it get out of control.
So it was a tool for them, not just, a destructive force.
Exactly. And you can still see the results of what they did today in the forest. Some researchers think the reason there are so many Brazil nut trees, for example, is because of how these ancient people managed the forest. It's pretty amazing, that human actions could affect the rainforest for so long.
That is amazing. So we might be eating Brazil nuts today because of ancient forest management. Okay, my mind is blown. What about the soil though? Wasn't it hard to grow things with all those trees blocking the sun?
Well, that's where this amazing discovery comes in. Have you ever heard of terra preta?
Yeah, maybe. Remind me.
So imagine you're digging in the ground and you find these patches of super dark, rich soil. That's terra preta, and get this, it's human-made. It's way more fertile than the soil around it, and it can stay that way for hundreds of years.
Wait, humans made super soil? How is that even possible?
The secret ingredient, charcoal. These ancient communities, they would intentionally mix charcoal into the soil, along with other organic stuff. And that not only made it more fertile, it helped it hold water and nutrients better too.
So they were soil engineers, ancient gardeners, but on a huge scale.
You got it. And they did this all over the Amazon. There's terra pretas all over the place, which tells us this was a big thing, and it really helped the rainforest support all those people living there.
This is all so fascinating. But these societies were so advanced and their influence was so big. Why haven't we heard more about them? Is it possible there are lost civilizations hidden in the Amazon?
It's a question that's really captured people's imaginations for a long time. Some experts think, yeah, maybe those earthworks, those agricultural systems, that terra preta, it all points to civilizations that were far more advanced than we think.
Lost civilizations in the Amazon. That sounds like something out of a movie. Is there real evidence for that?
Well, we do need to be careful and not get carried away. We're still gathering evidence and figuring things out, but technology is helping a lot. LiDAR, that laser scanning stuff, it can see through the trees. And we're finding all these structures and earthworks we never knew existed.
So we might be on the verge of rewriting the history books. uncovering the secrets of lost civilizations in the Amazon.
It's definitely possible. And it's not just about history,
Yeah.
it's about how we understand the rainforest today. It's about how we protect it in the future.
This is all so intriguing. We've covered so much, and I'm already dying to know more about those ancient practices. And, what does this all mean for the Amazon today?
We've got a lot more to unpack for sure. Like, how do we use what we're learning about the past to help the rainforest in the future?
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about like lost civilizations and all this evidence popping up in the Amazon. Those earthworks you mentioned, those sound pretty amazing. Like, what's the deal with those?
Oh yeah, those earthworks, they're really something. I mean, they're one of the biggest signs we have that people were reshaping the Amazon on a massive scale. Think like huge networks of ditches, mounds, causeways, all carefully built, stretching for miles and miles.
Yeah.
And they were built to work with the rainforest, not against it.
It's hard to even imagine, like, these giant structures hidden under all those trees. What were they for? Were they, like, practical things? Or more like, symbolic or for ceremonies?
That's a big debate among archaeologists. Some people think they were mostly about managing water. Like, they created these intricate canal systems, reservoirs, to irrigate crops and deal with all that rain during the wet season.
So they were basically, like, taking control of the Amazon's water, using it to their advantage.
Yeah, exactly. And they were really smart about it. Some of these earthworks, they used existing rivers and streams, but others, they actually created these whole new waterways. Pretty impressive when you think about the engineering skills they must have had.
Wow. So besides water management, what else might they have used the earthworks for?
Well, some people think some of them might have been defenses, to protect themselves from other groups or even wild animals. And then there's the idea that some of them might have been for ceremonies or religious stuff, like maybe those raised platforms. They could have been sacred spots for rituals surrounded by, these carefully designed landscapes.
It's amazing to think about these people not just surviving in the Amazon, but like building whole societies with their own culture and everything.
And it wasn't just the earthworks. Remember we talked about how good they were with fire, how they used it to manage the forest? Well, it seems they used controlled burning to create all these different types of habitats within the rainforest.
So they were actually like changing what kinds of plants and animals lived in different parts of the forest. How did they do that?
Think of it like this. They would clear and burn patches of forest to create fields for crops, but then they'd leave other areas untouched with all those big trees so they'd have timber and other resources. And by using fire carefully, they could create this patchwork of ecosystems, each with its own special mix of plants and animals.
Like a giant garden, almost.
Yeah.
But planned out to give them everything they needed.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it. And all that variety, those different habitats, it probably had a huge impact on the Amazon's biodiversity. I mean, some scientists even think that's one reason why there are so many different species in the Amazon today.
That's incredible. So the Amazon, like the one we know, it might be a mix of like natural stuff and ancient human stuff all blended together.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes us rethink what we mean by a pristine ecosystem, The Amazon has this long history of people living in it, interacting with it, and that's shaped it in so many ways.
So when we talk about protecting the Amazon, it's not just about keeping it untouched.
Right.
It's more complicated than that.
Right. We can't just pretend humans haven't been a part of the Amazon for thousands of years. We need to understand how they lived there, what they did right, what they did wrong, and use that to figure out how to protect it now.
So we're looking for a way forward that like recognizes that people and the rainforest are connected, not separate.
Exactly. And that means understanding and respecting the traditional knowledge of the indigenous people who have lived in the Amazon for generations sustainably. They know so much about how the rainforest works, what it needs, and how to make it strong.
It sounds like we need to stop thinking of indigenous people as just, people we need to protect. We need to see them as partners, as leaders in conservation.
I completely agree. They're the real experts on the Amazon. They've lived with it, depended on it for centuries. If we want to save the rainforest, we need to listen to them.
This built Amazon idea, it's not just about history, is it? It's about how we approach conservation today.
Absolutely. It's about seeing the Amazon in a whole new light, understanding its history, and using that to build a better future for it.
So we've talked about the earthworks, the fire management, the terra preta. What other clues are there about these ancient civilizations? Like, what else makes you think they were so advanced?
Well, there's evidence that they had these big trade networks, connecting different parts of the Amazon, and they had really sophisticated art too. I mean, some of the stuff they created is just amazing.
This is all so fascinating. It feels like we're just starting to understand the Amazon story.
It's an exciting time for Amazonian research, that's for sure. Every new discovery changes how we see this amazing ecosystem and how we understand its long relationship with people.
This has been an amazing deep dive so far. It really makes you think. But I'm still wondering, what does it all mean for the Amazon today?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? How can we use what we're learning about the past to protect the Amazon for the future? It's a challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity.
Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about the Amazon wasn't this untouched wilderness, ancient civilizations. They really shaped it. It's amazing, but I'm still wondering, what does this all mean for the Amazon today? Like all these problems it's facing, can we use any of this knowledge to help?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And it's where this whole built Amazon idea gets really important. I mean, we can't just try to preserve the Amazon like it's some kind of museum, We have to be smarter, more realistic about it. People have been a part of this ecosystem for so long, we have to take that into account.
So instead of trying to get rid of the human impact, we should be looking for ways to make that impact sustainable.
Exactly. We have to remember humans, they've been part of the Amazon for thousands of years. And their actions, good and bad, they've shaped the biodiversity, the resilience of the whole rainforest. So if we want to protect it now, we have to learn from what they did.
Can you give me an example of how that would actually work?
Sure. Think about controlled burning, right? We talked about how ancient people used fire to manage the forest. They created different habitats, made the soil better, even prevented those huge wildfires. And guess what? Indigenous communities are still doing that today. They're working with scientists, conservationists, using those ancient techniques to protect the rainforest, make it more resilient, especially with climate change and everything.
So we can actually use this ancient knowledge to help solve modern problems. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's not just fire. Indigenous communities, they know so much about sustainable farming, medicinal plants, the whole intricate web of the rainforest. If we listen to them, include their knowledge in our conservation plans, we can do so much more.
It's like we need to shift our whole perspective, right? See Indigenous communities not as people who need help, but as the leaders, the experts on how to protect the Amazon.
100%. They are the true stewards of the Amazon. They've been living in harmony with it for centuries. We need their wisdom, their experience to find solutions that work for everyone, people, and the environment.
So it's all about a more holistic view, right? Recognizing that humans and nature, we're all connected, not separate.
That's it. It's not about humans versus nature. It's about realizing we're part of the ecosystem and everything we do affects the whole web of life.
This built Amazon idea, it's really changed how I think about the rainforest. It's not just about preserving the past, it's about shaping the future.
Exactly. The future of the Amazon, it depends on us figuring out how to live sustainably, how to use the lessons of the past to create a better future for the rainforest and for everyone who depends on it.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this whole topic. The Amazon has so many secrets, so much to teach us.
It really does. It's a place of incredible power, incredible beauty, and what happens to it, it matters to all of us.
So deep divers, that's a wrap for today. What do you think about all this? Does the built Amazon theory change how you see the rainforest? How do you think we can use what we've learned to protect it for the future? Share your thoughts, let's keep the conversation going, and until next time, keep exploring.